So we're going to start off with a start, and it goes, starts on a D, and we play Sin J J J and Babethandaza. I'll sing that one more time. Sin J J J and Babethandaza. Okay, let's see if we can play that on a D. Okay, and it happens twice. After three, I'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Good. Let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the first half of section 1. Now we're going to move on to the next part. And this still only uses the note D, but it does change at one point. It goes Babethandaza, Babethandaza. Okay, so on the word tan, we go up from a D to an E natural in second position. Okay, so we're going to play D D D E D D D D D E D D D D D E D D D D D E D D. Okay, so we play it 4 times like I just did then, and this comes in after a rest. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then we start playing. Let's try it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Really good. Okay, now we're going to try and put those two sections together. So it will go like this. Let's try it. Ready? After 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And again. Okay, rewind the video if you want to practice that anymore.
Now is a great time, if you would like to pause the video and practice section 1. Make sure that you are confident on section 1 before moving on.
Section 2 goes like this. First off, there's some rests at the start where we will hear other people play Babethandaza, and then we play Babethandaza using the notes D D E D D. Okay, so let's see if we can try that. Ready? I will sing the first part. Babethandaza, D D E D D. Let's try it. Ready? And Babethandaza. Okay, good. Let's try that one more time. Ready? Really good. Okay, the next part is exactly the same as the second half of section 1. So it's where we play D D D E D D D D D E D D D D D E D D D D D E D D. So the whole of section 2 will go like this. See if you can try it with me. Ready? Babethandaza.
This is now a great time to pause the video and have a time to practice section 2. Make sure you are confident before moving on.
We're going to try it with the backing track. Now the backing track's a little bit slower, and at the start you will hear 1, 2, let's play 1, 2, 3, and then we start to play. Okay, so let's see if we can give it a try.
1, 2, let's play 1, 2, 3.